America is more ripe for revolution today than it was in the 60s. This is a fact. The American press media, an arm of capitalism, tries to make it appear as if the people are less conscious today than they were in the 60s. This is nothing but nonsense. No woman sitting here in this audience today can tell me that women, no matter what age they are today, are less conscious than those in the 60s of their responsibility to fight for their liberation. No handicapped person sitting in this audience can tell me that the handicapped are not more prepared to fight today for equality than they were in the 60s. In every aspect of life, the conscience of the people of America is rising. So much so that even the right wing comes to demonstrate this. They are involved in activities today which they call communistic in the 60s. Yes, they picket. Even policemen go on strike.
What's poppin'? What's poppin', people? Our boy Kwame Ture speaking the truth. You got diehard capitalists that are now using our techniques, that are now realizing why it's important to protest against imperialism, which is linked to capitalism, which is linked to Zionism. I really wish I can show this whole thing. I highly recommend you guys watch this 90-minute video. I am not bullshitting you. This is Dr. Kwame Ture speaking the truth about Zionism and triggering the shit out of a ton of Zionists in the process who tried to debate him, and they absolutely murder him. Kwame Ture absolutely murdered them. He murders them. It's like 5-on-1. He's like, all right, who's next? Let me explain to you guys why Judaism is not Zionism, which is taking ass kicking. We see the establishment panic. We see the escalating state violence, including violence against Jews. We are seeing examples of why Zionism makes Jewish people unsafe. We see in a historic amount of revolutionary potential. I'm a revolutionary optimist, sometimes to the point I sound delusional, but I think that's better than it being a nihilist, the standard social democrat. I view the social democrats, DSA, the people who believe there are no other option to vote Democrats, they're the biggest nihilists in politics. I have revolutionary discipline and optimism. Sometimes that bite me in my ass. But now we're seeing people hit the streets and protesting imperialism. You guys understand that the Free Palestine marches and protests, they have been the biggest anti-war rally since the Iraq War. That's giant, fam, over this cause. And now you got people like, what's her name, Megyn Kelly. She's handling this as well as we all expected she would, freaking out, telling everyone to leave this country, advocating blacklisting people who protest against the government. The right wing exposed themselves because there's so much in shambles. Now, to what Kwame Ture said, the revolutionary discipline of Americans has never been higher. I'll play that part again. I love the joke here. I can only hope to be a fraction of what Kwame Ture is. I know some people don't like the idea of young black people looking up to people like Fred Hampton and following their footsteps. They make a lot of Karen, especially those at Black Power Media, for example, very upset. But I look at people like Kwame Ture and Malcolm X, and those are people we should learn from. The PMC black left, they want to gatekeep revolutionary black thought. And what people don't understand when we named ourselves Fred Hampton leftists, we wasn't taking the mantle of Fred Hampton. We was telling everyone that we should strive to be a fraction of what our revolutionary leaders are and have been. This whole debate is great. I may do a breakdown of this one day.
Than they were in the 60s. In every aspect of life, the conscience of the people of America is rising. So much so that even the right wing comes to demonstrate this. They are involved in activities today which they call communistic in the 60s. Yes, they picket. Even policemen go on strike. Thus, the objective conditions for revolution is clear, because the conditions in America today are worse than they were in the 60s, beyond the wildest imagination.
And now conditions in America are worse than the 90s, where Kwame Ture gave the speech. There's never been a point where there's been more revolutionary potential. Now, nihilists will look at Kwame Ture like, why didn't a revolution happen in the 90s? Because the capitalists and the police, they squashed us. They use state violence. We are propagandized. We learn from defeats and we come back stronger with even more revolutionary discipline. If there was this revolutionary discipline in the 90s, and optimism in the 90s, why is that not apparent now? Why do you have professional managerial class people, Tom Hartman, for example, that essentially waved the white flag to the Democratic Party establishment? Those who speak of building socialist and communist third parties as directed to us by our revolutionary leaders, we're considered unrealistic. Come on, man. Third parties are not possible. How many times have you guys heard this on boutique left media? They all say, come on, man. Third parties don't have a chance. Crystal Ball famously said, man, I like the idea of a third party, and if a third party ever got off the ground, I would theoretically support it. But it's not possible. Come on, we got to get realistic. We got to grow up, as she support Marianne Williamson. But you notice how these people say they will support a third party once they get off the ground because they don't want to do the revolutionary work. They wave the white flag. Meanwhile, RBN, we are front and center trying to revitalize revolutionary optimism that the professional managerial class beat out of many workers in this country, beat out of the progressive left, beat out of the Bernie Sanders left, beat out AOC in the squad. I just want to show you guys this exchange, actually. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I just want to show you guys how Kwame Ture kind of dismantles this guy. I think this guy, you guys see this guy was yelling. I almost don't want to show this without showing the lecture, though, because the lecture is so fucking fire. It's 30 minutes of Kwame Ture just destroying Zionism.
This is unscientific garbage.
Yeah, let me go. This is a good point. This is a good point. Let me play a little bit of this. I'm going off script, fam.
According to Mr. Herzl, Jews, and the theory that he said is that Jews were discriminated against all over the world. This is not true. In Europe, yes, but not all over the world. We must never make the particular history of Europe, the general history of the world.
We should never let, and this is what white America and many people do all the time, make the history of Europe the history of the world. That is such a profound quote. And that's why this is a 90-minute lecture. I recommend you watch all of it because the first part is Kwame Ture just dismantling, utterly destroying every facet of Zionism. And then after that, a bunch of mad Zionists in the crowd was coping. And then they try to step up to the king himself, and he smacks them down. This is a glorious video. I watched the entire thing last week. Never had time to do a segment on it, but I'm doing this off the cuff because I kind of want you guys to see it.
No question that Judaism had trouble in Europe, but we said all religions had trouble in Europe, so that's nothing new for Europe. These are historical.
I want you guys to hear that.
This is a particular history, the particular history of Europe, the general history of the world. There's no question that Judaism had trouble in Europe, but we said all religions had trouble in Europe, so that's nothing new for Europe.
Yeah, you can make the argument that Jewish people were persecuted in Europe, but who wasn't? That's the argument he's making. And not because there was any necessarily targeted, systematic oppression.
These are historical facts. Consequently, we must not confuse it. But Mr. Hertz and those who are Zionists say that there's a hatred for Jews which is innate in human beings. This is unscientific garbage. How can anyone tell us, which preaches a religion, that someone cannot be transformed to a higher state when religion is about transforming human beings to a higher qualified state? They come to make an unscientific statement. Not only does Mr. Herschel say that people have an innate hatred for Judaism, but he says this innate hatred, which we who are non-Jews have, will continue forever. Even making an unscientific statement that nothing changes. Everything changes all the time. And certainly if one can be a heathen and become a believer, one who hates Jews can come to understand and correct oneself and come to appreciate Jews and may even become a Jew themselves. Consequently, this statement that innate hatred that the people have against Judaism is garbage, stupidity, unscientific nonsense. Zionism is a political philosophy. According to Mr. Herzl, the Jews were oppressed everywhere, and they needed a state, a country, which would save them and give them the right to protect themselves. Thus, he called, look at the stupidity. He says that everybody in the world is against Jews. They hate Jews, and now he wants to collect them in one spot where we can all come and get them. Well, stupidity, every aspect of it. Here, Mr. Herzl comes to tell us that not only are we innately against Jews and that we will never change, but the only way Jews themselves will protect themselves is when they come to have their own country. We said Mr. Herzl began in 1897. That great man, V.I. Lenin, at the turn of the century, wrote a book entitled Imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism.
Hey!
The highest stage of capitalism, yes.
This is
If one would read this little pamphlet, one would see here that Mr. Lenin had precisely pointed out that all of the world had already been conquered and divided by colonial powers. There was no else in the world left to be conquered or divided by colonial powers. This is the time when Zionism comes to rise. Zionism comes to look for a state when everywhere else in the world is already dominated. Thus, in order for Mr. Herzl to get a country for Zionists, what he did was to attach himself to imperialism. British imperialism in this case.
Who does that?
Quite specifically. Of course, as an African who suffered under the heels of British imperialism, I can have no love for it, and certainly I cannot love anyone who attaches themselves to it and attaches themselves to it for the foundation of a state and then call this a liberation movement. Liberation movements fight against imperialism, not with it.
Fucking dismantled every Zionist. Do you guys understand what you just said there? Because you have Zionists, and especially right-wingers, who they'll make the argument that, well, Palestine didn't exist as a state. For one, yes, it did. Yes, it did. Palestine was occupied by the British. So why would anyone accept the legitimacy of Britain having control of Palestine if you're anti-imperial? If you are against colonization, if you're a resistance movement against hate, why would you accept a state that was gotten by ill means based on imperialism? That's a devastating point that I never ever heard a Zionist acknowledge. In order to acknowledge this point, you got to acknowledge that you're pro-imperialist because you accept the world order established by imperialists and colonizers. So how can you accept the land that was stolen by other people? Let's continue.
Clearly here. Yes.
I need a few more minutes to do this.
The legal foundation of the State of Israel is what is known as the Balfour Declaration. This declaration was issued in 1917. A man in the government of Britain named Balfour wrote a paper and promised the Jews a national home. The national home he promised them was an area which Britain was colonizing, Palestine. Palestine didn't belong to the British. Just like Ireland doesn't belong to the British, even though they have troops there. But here, these British imperialists signed a note and gave it to the Jews, and they accepted it. Where is the morality for this? If you say that Israel belongs to you, then you don't go to a thief to get Israel, you go and take it. Once you go to an immoral being such as British imperialism, and this is the basis for you getting the land, then clearly here those who are truly liberation fighters must question this.
Now you guys see why the United States and Britain and their Western imperialists support Zionism? That's why Bernie Sanders is a scumbag of the highest order. Anyone who's a liberal on the left who's teaming up with rank imperialists to defend the state of Israel, you can only do so if you accept the claims of the British. That's why many Africans, that's why black people, that's why if you're anti-imperialist, you cannot be for the state of Israel. Which is why we see through RFK Jr. from day one. The second you start speaking about Israel, like, you're not anti-imperialist then. This is
the basis we say is the Balfour Declaration, and Zionists know it. The Zionism is certainly not a liberation movement because it never fought against any imperialism. As a matter of fact, today, Zionism is the baby, child, and infant protector of imperialism in the Middle East.
Yes.
It carries out the interests of American imperialism. As a matter of fact, Zionism and American imperialism is like this. If our tax dollars would stop giving money to Israel, the state would sink tomorrow.
RFK Jr. even admitted this. He explained why Israel is so important because it's an aircraft carrier into the Middle East. Israel wants war with Iran. Israel was supporting the genocide in Yemen. This was in the 90s, but this applies even more today. Even more today. Israel and the United States teaming up to bomb and illegally occupy Syria. Israel is the Middle Eastern puppet of the United States. That's why Zionism is a failure, because Zionism promised sovereignty. Did it not? Sovereignty for the Jewish people. There is nothing sovereign about Israel. Israel is a puppet of the United States. There is no sovereign Jewish land that came out of Zionism. Once again, watch this entire thing. We're gonna play a few more minutes of this, and I'm gonna show you guys the pushback he got, and he dismantles the guy who tried to debate him. This is an off the cuff segment, so this may be a little bit longer stream than I planned, but I really want to show you guys that this is brilliant. So let's play a little bit more, and then I want to show the debate.
And certainly no one can deny that American imperialism is the leading imperialist nation in the world. So we cannot see how a liberation movement is so tied, string and hand to American imperialism. They work hand in hand with American imperialism. Thus, they can hardly be a liberation movement. In addition to this, Zionism has nothing to do with anything religion, nothing. All religions are concerned with human beings after they die. That's what religions are for. Islam will tell you what happens to you when you die. As a matter of fact, this which forces you to live a good life so that after death, you'll be able to enjoy the rewards of heaven. The same is true for Judaism. But Zionism says nothing about the individual after they're dead. They don't give a damn about you. Zionism has nothing to do with religion at all, and one should not make the confusion here. The Palestinian state belongs to the Palestinian people. This is a fact. Of course, Zionism in the early days made all sorts of nonsensical propaganda. Oh, they ran away, they left the land. I saw one, he said, well, you know, they ran away and left the land. I said, well, they want to come back now? So just get out the way and let them come back. If you said they just ran away on their own. No.
By the way, Palestinians do not have the right to return like the way Israelis do. Remember those privileged college students shown on MSNBC and Fox News? They go to Ivy League schools who have God knows how much generational wealth behind them. One of them went on a spiritual and a religious journey, a trip to the motherland to study in Israel for a year. And she's like, oh my God, I'm such a victim. I was back from Israel. Funny that you had such a strong connection to Israel when you only was there for a year. You're like, all right, I'm out of here. Fuck this shit. I'm gonna go back to Brooklyn, nigga. I want a pizza. That what they live in Brooklyn talking about how much they love fucking Israel. Go there for a year, leave. Can Palestinian people return? There's no right to return.
Zionism took Palestine through raw and naked terrorism.
Yes.
Naked.
Yes, sir.
Even that butcher, Begin, he will never rest in peace. He who came into a village and terrorized the village to scare the people to run out and was proud of it. This is how Zionism conquered the land. They didn't conquer it, not even with the Torah. They conquered it with the gun passed to them from American imperialism, British imperialism. All the imperialist countries in the world supported them. The Palestinian people have been totally driven out of their land. And Zionism comes to use as a justification for the state religion. There's no state in the world that can claim it's a state because of religion. That's not possible. Zionism cannot say that Jews belong to any one race. They cannot, because we know that Judaism came out of Africa, and the earliest Jews in the world were Africans. Even today, they must admit that those in Ethiopia are Jews, and therefore should come to Israel. So once you admit this, you admit that, oh, Judaism then is not, this question of Zionism is not a question of race, but what they say is a nation, of course. But a religion is not a nationality, nor is a religion a nation. Religion transcends, that's the correct word. Religion transcends the boundaries, national boundaries.
It's such a great point.
We know that Islam, for example, began in Saudi Arabia. But you will find Frenchmen born in France who adhere to Islam and are true Muslims.
He's
It
killing them.
transcends geographical boundaries. We know that Africa stabilized Christianity for the world. But everywhere in the world today, you will find Christians. Religions transcends geographical boundaries. Consequently, Zionism must come to understand that it cannot claim or have anything to do with religion if it doesn't seek to transcend geographical boundaries. And it does not. As a matter of fact, it makes itself boundaries. Of course, these boundaries are not declared. Israel is the only state in the world with undeclared boundaries. Every other state has them except Israel. Zionism itself shows itself in the flux that it is. Even though in the Zionist...
I can easily continue. Once again, I highly recommend you guys to watch this entire fucking thing. That's 10 minutes of fire, fam. And this was an open, what's the best word for it? Let's say there's open dialogue here. So you have people of different ideologies here. And this fire, just that you hear from Kwame Ture, and then this is like, and the whole speech is like 35 minutes before he take questions, and 35 minutes of him dismantling Zionism in every way, shape, or form. And they didn't really take it well. Let's see. I think it starts around right here. You can see one of these people stand up.
We're now going to go ahead and begin to field questions. We've got one. Let's go. This is the first one I noticed right up there in the back.
For the people asking, this video is called Dr. Kwame Ture Zionism Debate Lecture. You can find it on YouTube.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Wait, he's...
First of all, I take great offense with anyone defining myself and my Jewishness as anything that you decide it is.
Listen, now, bro, this male Karen, before the term even existed, was listening to the entire thing, fucking seething. This man is seething, bro. So he's gonna give a big Karen speech, but trust me, Kwame Ture quickly smacks him down.
Judaism, I define for myself, that's my right, no one else's. I take great offense with anyone defining myself and my Jewishness as anything that you decide it is. Judaism, I define for myself, that's my right, no one else's. If Judaism, if Zionism was racist as you say, then the state of Israel, what you would call the Zionist state, would not have taken Jewish people who were black from Ethiopia and brought them to
Well, you can see how many people in the audience was seething at his entire lecture, right? But trust me, Kwame Ture destroys this guy.
At their request, Jews from India, Jews from Morocco, Jews from Algeria, Jews from all of those countries, which are in Africa, which are in Asia, which are not white countries. Also, Israel would not have one of the best centers for training African leaders, which is the Asian African Institute, which is located in Tel Aviv.
Let him talk. Let him talk. Let him talk. Let him talk. Let him talk.
Bro, the entire debate segment was like that, where the audience would get riled up, and then Kwame Ture was like, "Come on, man, just let him talk, bro. It's good. There's nothing to me, bro. It's good. Let him talk. Let him talk, bro." Kwame Ture during this entire debate destroys all of them without sweating. Just chill. They all riled up, going through a Karen speech. Kwame, all right, let him talk. Let him talk. Let me know. I'm gonna destroy him.
We're here for democracy. Are you finished, or you want to continue?
I'm done.
All right, thank you. Let me just answer you. We can start on your last question first. We Africans, of course, are involved in a serious struggle for the socialist unification of our continent. This struggle is a serious struggle because if one looks at Africa, it seems as if we have a monopoly of corruption. Our leaders are filthy pigs. They have no concern for the masses of our people. They're only concerned with lining their pockets. And the countries which Israel helped have the biggest pigs who oppress us. Go now and you see who is the bodyguard of Mobutu, the killer of Lumumba? Israel.
Fucking the Karen guy was like, come on, Israel trains a bunch of African leaders. And Kwame Ture like, dude, have you seen what the African leaders has done? I'll let it continue.
Go to Liberia. Who supports that butcher dough? Israel. Go to Ethiopia, where Mengistu played that he was a socialist, and now when he's in trouble, runs back and forth. Who protects him? Israel. We don't stop here. You ought to talk about the relationship you have in Tanzania, South Africa, with the racist pigs there too. Your second question. The statement which you use saying that Israel shows that it's non-racist by going to get Ethiopian Jews and bring them to Israel shows exactly its racism. Because how can you, in the time you sound just like God, you're going to mark out and decide who you're going to save when there's drought? Here's the drought of all Africans, and you're only concerned with serving those who you call Jews. And you say this is a remark and a quality of human behavior?
Fucking obliterated. Easily. You notice how the crowd was cheering the Karen guy at first? And then Kwame Ture, all right, don't talk, bro. This is easy. Easy shit here. Dismantles his argument with no effort at all. Once again, I can only strive to be a fraction of what this guy is. Too bad we don't got Kwame Ture with us today.
Judaism cannot be defined by you. I am African. I gave it to you. I too can define it.
Going hard on this man.
You are only representing European culture, which every time a religion comes into Europe, it tries to take over that religion and chauvinistically make it its own. It has got to such ludicrous heights that it paints Jesus Christ white, even though he never put his foot in Europe.
He's dead. He's already dead, bro. He's already dead.
Brother, you had a question right there? Yeah, go ahead.
Watch the entire thing.